Leander and Mark of Paper Artsy work with a large number of designers whose drawings are transformed into rubber stamps and stencils. In today's video, I'll show you my take on working with this latest release that we received in June 2020. This batch of stamps from Paper Artsy includes designs from Tracy Scott, Joe Firth Young, Zinsky Art, and Lynn Perella, and there are 3 of Tracy's newest stencils. My surfaces today include our ring-bound, smooth and sturdy 6x12 white journal pages, black smooth and sturdy index cards, those, I think, one page that's on the 6x6 white smooth and sturdy disc-bound pages, plus I have sheets of Canson 90-pound cold-pressed watercolor paper. I find it's a really nice surface to stamp and color on. You'll also see, maybe you won't actually see it, but I can tell you that I used pages torn from Diane Reevely's Dylusions journals. That mixed media paper is consistent across all of them, bar the black, which of course is completely different, but it makes a really great surface to work on. And in a class, Di pointed out that it's far less expensive to buy a journal full of pages than it is to buy those sheets that come prepackaged, I think, in 10s, and so that's what I've done. So the first new stamps I want to show you are these 3 by Lynn Perella. I ran out of time. I mean, I made sample upon sample, but did run out of time and didn't get a chance to use them. But I wanted to show them to you first before I move on to the others. So these are stamps numbered 44, 45, and 46. They're all obviously issued sequentially when Paper Artsy produces them. There is no mistaking Lynn Perella's style. It is very distinct, very uniquely hers. Her stamps combine multiple elements with a similar look and feel into the kind of imagery you see here that's very unique, and it's wonderful to create with. So I didn't get to work with these, so I am going to move them out of the way for a moment, and I'm going to bring in some of Tracy Scott's. Oops. Okay. So there are, in fact, 3 sets this time from Tracy. Let's start with this one underneath. This is set 39. Oops, not the one I wanted. This is set 40 that features the 5 elements that you see here. Beautiful, nicely sized stamps where you can do quite a lot with them. So I only worked with the flower because, again, there are only so many hours in the day, but I did want to show you this to start with. When you look at the way that Tracy's colored them here, it's very deliberate and it's beautiful, but I'm way too impatient for that, and I didn't have enough time to really do that. So what I did instead was I took a piece of watercolor paper that I'd sprayed oxides on and dribbled some sparkly stuff on, and I just went and stamped right on it, and that's how I got this effect that you see here. And this is one of our, this is I think a 5x7 black smooth and sturdy index card. Now there's a lot more that could be done with this, but you can see what it looks like when you take something like this and stamp on it and then cut it out. I mean, you'd never really know what that was. And then of course there's stickles in the center of the flowers because. So this here, very often you'll see Tracy stamp flowers on the edge of a journal page. She does a way better job of it than me. She masks and overlaps and things look really great. I didn't have time to mess with that because, again, I'm far too impatient. So what I did was just stamp them here, and then I cut the elements out so you get this very different edged piece. So this is a 6x6 white smooth and sturdy disc-bound page. Discs fit in the notches. It's a nice system. All right, so that is this first set. Let's get rid of this. If I bring in this set right here, gorgeous, absolutely stunning butterfly. There's the butterfly, there's my hand. You can see that this is a really big stamp. If I bring in this page, so this is the 6x12 ring bound, again it's white, smooth and sturdy. This is that butterfly. Now I did the same thing here, but rather than use oxide sprays, I had a piece of the 90-pound watercolor paper that I brayered paint on and ultimately just kind of mushed it around until I was satisfied, and you get this kind of fun overall look. And yes, there are indeed stickles on here too. Background was done with oxides. I stayed very much in the pink family. So this is this flower center stamp here. This time I didn't put stickles in the center, but I could have, and I might. You just never know. The border that you see running vertically here is our leafy foam stamp. Now this is not done, but it's got a really good start, and eventually I'll be able to do something a little bit more with it. This is one of Diane Reevely's dialogues. This one happens to be the one with the grid with the squares on it. So one of the things that I'm going to show you in a second is when you put paint out to work with it, there's very often something left. Now, if I'm not deliberately creating backgrounds with a brayer, it's easy enough to grab some color. Well, that's a spray. It's easy enough to grab some color and go ahead and brayer it onto a page. There's another one here someplace that, of course, I can't put my hands on. But nevertheless, again, I came in with the flower center, and so this is an easy way to create backgrounds, and then you have this prepped when you're ready to go if you don't feel like messing around with backgrounds at the same time. Okay, so this is set 41. Lots of elements that I think of as great layers for backgrounds and those kinds of things. This is what I used here. This is a white watercolor index card. I want to say that this is 5x7. This is oxide sprays on the background, and I just picked a color stamp pad that kind of worked with them, and that's this piece right here from the set. So when you look at, again, now I come back to the 6x12 white smooth and sturdy ring bound. When you look at this is completely different because I did it with paint, and that's what I'm actually going to show you. So I'm going to take the coffee stain from the set, and I'm going to ink it with some of the fresco finish paint, and then I'll have some color left that I can do a background with. So let's see, let's put that over there. All right, so this is one of the dialogues that is, I don't know if this is handwriting lines or what this one is called, and it doesn't actually say on here, and it's out of the package, so I have no idea. But you can see that I've got all of this background stuff done. Most of this was with leftover paint on my table. So I've got a spot right here opened up. There's the stamp. Let me get a mount. That would be helpful. So I have two colors of fresco finish. I have Hey Pesto and Byzantium. And let's start with the green. So I'm going to put a little bit out over here where let's put it over here where you can actually see it. Not going to do too much because I don't really need all that much. And then I'm going to put some of the purple out. Let's just put that kind of over here. Now, if you mix green and purple, you're going to get mud. But what I want to do is just pick it up and let it kind of layer on the stamp. Now, the Hey Pesto, I want to say, is translucent, and the purple is a little bit more opaque. Yep, that one is semi-opaque. So I'm going to allow some blending to happen on the brayer. But I don't want it to make mud, so I'm going to be reasonably careful about what I do. And then it's just a question of, well, let's do that there like that, just going ahead and stamping. Very, very subtle because of the colors and the transparency or lack of opacity in the paint, but you can see how well this works. So if I want to, I can just brayer this color off so I don't get a muddy mess. I can apply layers like this without any difficulty, but if I start over applying, then I'm going to get blending, which is going to very likely make a mess. And go ahead and press that there, and there's probably enough paint, to do another light one like that. So what I'm going to do is just put some water over here where you can't see it, but I'm going to put the stamp face down in it so that the paint doesn't dry. And now, let's get that out of the way. I'm going to come back to this journal, and I'm just going to start applying the paint. Again, I'm really not getting a lot of blending because I didn't over brayer this. I'm going to stick with one color. But this is a good way to kind of do two things at once. I'm getting a background done here at the same time that I'm doing something else. And if I come back and I grab the gridded book and I just switch pages here, I can come in and pick up the purple and kind of just do the same thing and use this up. When I do this, I'm going to go 90 degrees in either direction. I'm going to turn 90 degrees in either direction. I'm not going to go on the diagonal. I think it looks better when you do it like this. Alright, so that's pretty much enough of that. Alright, so I do want to bring the butterfly back for 1 second. I have to find the butterfly before I can bring it back. Here's the butterfly. So let's come back to this just for 1 second. When I created this butterfly, again, I background, made the background basically like what I just showed you, though I used more colors and I kept my spacing on the colors a little bit smaller so that there was little less white space in between. But when you do something like this, keep in mind that you can build color layers by applying them once the previous color is dry. You don't necessarily have to do it the way that I just did, and then you can take any colors and put them together, and so long as you layer wet over dry, it really doesn't make any difference and you're not going to make mud. So up next are sets from Joe Firth Young and Zinsky Art. Not every stamp requires being cut out, and it was with that in mind that I used the elements from the Jaffe set number 93, which are these elements that you see here. And so background is done. I don't know exactly what else I might want to do with this, or if this is not the background, then maybe some borders or whatever, but I kind of like it the way it is. I'm not necessarily feeling like it needs a lot more. I know it's not quite done, but I think it's getting there. On the other hand, let's get that set out of the way. On the other hand, this is basically done. I don't know if I want to put a word or something up here, but in terms of stamps and backgrounds and colored images, as far as I'm concerned, this one is ready to go. So these are the elements from set number 94. We don't need to see that anymore. So these are the elements from set number 94, and you can see that I used virtually all of them. The only ones that I didn't were the two leaves that kind of form the base that the flowers sit into on the stem. So, I mean, this one came together really well. I'm very happy with all of it. Again, not every stamp has to be stamped and cut out and colored. They can become great background elements as well, so that you can see other things going on, but your focus remains here on these images. So these were colored with Dylusions ink sprays, or maybe there's some distress colors loaded into water brushes. Process is really easy. I find that I get as good a result, and sometimes better, than I would if I were coloring with colored pencils or some other kind of crayon-y thing. I also find that I get blends done more easily this way. So I'm going to start with the stem, and I'm just going to lay some of this green down, and I'm going to lay it down on both sides, pretty much across the whole width of the stem. And I want to keep this moist, so I want a decent, if I need to squeeze this to feed some of the color down, I can. I want this to be moist so that it's not dry when I add the darker green on, which will allow wicking and blending to happen actually quite easily. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to drag some down, and then it almost starts to blend itself, but I can come back with a lighter color, and I can smooth that blend out a little bit if I want. You can see it's pretty darn easy to do. Again, if I want to squeeze this just to get some of the color moving down into the bristles of the brush. Same kind of process. Now, I'm not going to go any further with this because it's better, if I'm going to work on this particular part of the flower, it's better to do it when the leaf area is dry so that you don't get wicking in ways that you don't want. So with that said, we're just going to ignore that for now. This is spiced marmalade. I'm just going to lay down some of this. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. That's what happens when you squeeze too hard. So I'm just going to lay the color down here. And it's pretty light. Probably I watered this down. Honestly, it's been sitting in the water brush long enough that I don't really remember. But I want to get some on here and just gently pull it down into this area here. Again, I want to kind of keep it damp so that the blending happens pretty easily. And you get nice, neat gradations rather than big, dark ones. Put a little bit of the orange in. Well, I didn't mean to get orange on the leaf, but I'm not trying to make great art here. I'm just trying to give you some ideas for using these stamps and ways to color them. I can drag that orange over a little bit, and if I want to add, let's see, this is this. If I want to add just a little bit of pink, I could do that here, and I could come back and blend again. Now, I'm choosing to blend with the lightest color, but I could have blended with the orange color if I'd wanted to. Put just a little bit of pink there, kind of let the working happen. So this is a really easy way to color. If I wanted to, again, let's kind of get these where they belong. If I wanted to come in with some of the pink and let's say put some pink stripes in here, well, good grief. Put some pink stripes in there. That was way more color sitting in the tip of the bristles than I expected. But I would do this and I would let these dry before I came back, and I did the stripes next to them. And then you could certainly use stickles. I mean, if I bring this sample back, you'll see that, well, yeah, there are stickles in there because I love them, and there's nothing not to like about that, and it adds some fun elements. So coloring is really, really very simple. There are many different ways to get your stuff colored. So then the last of Joe's sets for this release is one that I also did not get a moment to work on because, again, there just are only so many hours in the day. Got a nice border, you've got some corner pieces here, some really great backgrounds, this little bit of, well, it's not text so much as it is the alphabet, and then these wonderful flowers. So lots of fun elements that you can use this set on, you can use from this set on all different kinds of projects. Heck, if you wanted to make a card, these would be a great card element. Okay, so then that leaves us with the Zinsky stamps. So there are 3 sets this time. You can see these have been used. I have them cut out here someplace. And then there are these 2 that have these kind of fun rabbits. Definitely a spring thing, but I think that they could be used year-round. The insects I did stamp, and if I bring them in here. So I actually stamped them, and I was going to use them in black and white, but I think it would be fun. They could easily be colored too. Same kind of process as what I just did. So for example, if we wanted this guy to have kind of green eyes with maybe a hint of a deeper turquoisey green up here, very easy to do as long as you keep things damp. Those blends happen very easily and the color gradations happen really easily. He could have a white body just kind of like he has, or orange would be fun. And I could add a little bit of the pink in the ears just to spice them up a bit. So in this particular set, let's get rid of these. That's the wrong cap for the wrong pen. In this particular set, there are 7 bugs, and there's the one sentiment there about don't bug me. So that leaves us with the final thing, which in fact are the 8 Zinnies, which I'm going to guess is a combination of Zinsky and Mini. I thought these were hysterical. I used every single one because they were too much fun to ignore. And again, I came to, this is the same 6x12 smooth and sturdy ring-bound white journal. You can see that there's a ring-bound hole here and there's one here. But this time, rather than orienting it portrait, which is what you might be accustomed to, I oriented it in landscape format, and I think that it works really well. The borders add a lot of fun. I mean, weird is good. You have to embrace the weird, right? And I think that these particular 8 really encourage that. It's just a lot of fun, and really, there's nothing not to like about this. So the color art shows them, well, they're under here. I'm sorry, the cover art, or the art that's printed on the inserts, shows them all in color, but there was enough color in the background here that I felt like leaving them black and white actually made them stand out quite a bit better, and so I'm real happy that I did. Mostly it was because I ran out of time and couldn't get them all colored, but ultimately as I started to lay them down, I realized that this actually was a pretty good look. So again, coming back to the others, we have the spring themes with the bunnies, great for year-round, and the bugs. So the last thing, very quickly for today, are Tracy's 3 stencils. And I worked with one because, again, there's just never enough hours in the day. This is the one I want to say that's numbered 188. Same 6x12 white smooth and sturdy ring-bound journal page that's got oxides on the background and a little bit of paint on top. All I did was lay this down, apply a little bit of color through the opening with some fresco finish on an ink blending tool. This one happens to be lavender, and you get this. And then these are the 2 other stencils that are included in this release. Great group of stamps, fun stencils. There is nothing not to like about this whole release from Paper Artsy.